Hey guys, welcome back to the MCU HQ, and we're doing something fun today. The MCU has basically gotten too big to do a full ranking. I mean, it's possible, but it takes a lot of time, and I don't have that kind of time right now. So I figured instead of that, we'll do something more fun, and we'll do an MCU tier list, because I do like doing tier lists. I've done a couple others. I'll link them here. I've done the Iron Man suit tier list and the Spider-Man suit tier list. The Spider-Man suit one was really funny because I was basically going insane throughout the entire video. So definitely check those out after you watch this MCU tier list. So yeah, this is going to be fun. So we have every film, every TV show made by Marvel Studios. None of the one-shots are in here, and none of the Netflix or ABC shows are in here. But it's the Disney Plus shows and the movies. We got the whole MCU here. S, A, B, C, D, F. We will see what tiers we add as we go. And I did put these in release order. And thank you to the person who made this, because I do not have the patience to actually make the tier list file and get everything. So someone did this for me. Thank you, kind sir. Anyway, let's hop into this. So starting out, we have the original Iron Man. Now, if you've been following my channel for some time, you would know that I think Iron Man is one of the upper echelon superhero films. I love it, and it might still be my favorite MCU film. So we're going to start off strong. We're going to put that in S. And the best thing about Iron Man is that when Marvel made it, they knew if it was they were going to make a connected universe, but at the time, all they cared about was just making a good movie. And that's something a lot of other companies trying to make cinematic universes forget about. The reason Marvel was successful isn't because they tried to force it right off the bat. They just tried to make a good movie and let everything else come from that. Anyway, moving on to The Incredible Hulk. This one is tricky. I'm not going to put it in the lowest tiers because it's not that bad of a movie. I feel like a lot of people unnecessarily hate on it. I actually do see a lot of people's put Incredible Hulk at the bottom just because it doesn't feel like it's connected to the rest of the MCU. And that's really unfair because it still has redeeming qualities. I don't think it's fantastic, though, I will say that. The pacing does seem a bit off, I've noticed. Abomination's not that great of a villain. CGI's not all there. Liv Tyler, I could care less. But I will say that it does have the best on-screen or MCU Hulk, like the best on-screen Hulk in my opinion. I think I'll go C with it. I think I'm gonna put it in C. I don't think it deserves to be in the top 3 here, but it's also not bad enough to get a D and an F. And I'm glad that they're going to be acknowledging this more in the future, because that movie has been here since 2008, and the only reference it's gotten is William Hurt. Okay, Iron Man 2. Oh boy. Okay. Iron Man 2 is not really that good, is it? It has it's entertaining, but it has just way too much going on in it that I'm like, it's really not all that great. And yeah, it's funny going into out of Iron Man, they made a lot of not great films, and then Avengers came in and they're like, booyah, we're back. I don't know if I want to go C or D with Iron Man 2 is the thing. I'm not sure where exactly it deserves to go. I think some of the things it does really well, but that's a lie. It kind of goes half-assed with all its plot lines because it has to hurry stuff along. So, I'm going to put it in D for now. It is subject to change. Don't worry. Anything that's in the tier list is not permanent. It can be moved. Thor. Thor is, I'm going to say Thor is my favorite of the Thor trilogy. Sue me for that opinion if you want. I don't care. But Thor is my favorite of the Thor trilogy. I think the performances all around are amazing. Chris Hemsworth, great as Thor. Tom Hiddleston, great as Loki. The fact they got Anthony Hopkins to bring in his all as Odin, I love. I also think the soundtrack for this movie takes it from a C to a B. So I think that's exactly where I'm going to put it. Let's put it in B. The scene when Thor gets his powers back. One of my favorite scenes in the entire MCU. So Captain America, the First Avenger. I kind of agree with the opinion that the best parts of Captain America are before he gets the serum. So it's like half a movie that is really good and then half a movie that's fine. They kind of montage through World War II. I'm not a fan of how they do Bucky's sacrifice. If you've seen the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes show, that's how I think Bucky's sacrifice should go down. I think that was the best way they've done it. Red Skull, I just don't really care about Red Skull. But I will say the ending of this movie, it's one of the best MCU endings. I'll put it C for now. I will put it in C for right now, and I like it more than Hulk, so we'll put it there. All right, the Avengers. Yes, we're back to good stuff. I think Avengers is gonna go in A. I think that's a good place to put Avengers. It has some absolutely fantastic moments. The circle shot, of course, being iconic. Avengers theme, great. But it also has some things it doesn't do well. Hawkeye being brainwashed the whole movie. Kind of dropped the ball on that. I don't know if it was supposed to be a reference to the fact that he was evil originally in the comics, but it stained Hawkeye forever, basically. No one is like a big fan of Hawkeye because of what this movie did to him. Yeah, I mean, but like I said, it does have some great stuff. That's why it's an A. It's just the couple things it does wrong that keep it out of S for me. Iron Man 3. Okay. Iron Man 3 is a fun one. A lot of people don't like Iron Man 3. I do like Iron Man 3. I think everything involving Tony Stark in Iron Man 3 is amazing. It's some of the best character writing in the MCU. I think him being out of the suit works perfectly fine because the suit's not Iron Man. Tony Stark is Iron Man. Where I think it goes wrong is its villain department. Killian, not great as a villain. Trevor Slattery is, a fantastic character, but the Mandarin twist, I think, was still a stupid decision, and no matter how well Shang-Chi fixed the Mandarin, Iron Man 3 will never be able to let go of the fact that it did the Mandarin dirty. But like I said, I do think that this is some of the best character writing in the MCU when it comes to people like Tony Stark or Rhodey or even Pepper for that fact. So I think I'm going to put Iron Man 3 in B. I don't think I like it as much as Thor, but I'll put it in B. Now, Thor the Dark World. Okay. This ain't great, is it? This movie really, it ain't great. Here's the thing. It's just kind of boring. Like, that's what I notice on every rewatch of Thor the Dark World, is it's just kind of boring. I feel like there's not much to any of the characters besides Loki. Thor feels sidelined in his own movie. Malekith is the singular worst villain in comic book movie history. It doesn't have much going for it, besides, I guess you could say it looks pretty. Alan Taylor directed it well. I mean, it's a good-looking movie, but yeah, besides the music and the visuals, there's not much going for this movie. I think I'm going to put it in D with Iron Man 2. And this is also a good point to mention that these grades are not really reflective of movies in general. So I'm not saying Thor the Dark World is a D movie. I'm saying it's a D movie compared to the MCU movies. So if I put something in F, it could still have things I like. It just means that when you compare it to everything else above it, it is god-awful. And I'm telling you that because there's a movie that's going to go in that tier. So just warning you now. And yeah, they're not like reflective of a grade. Like, an F doesn't mean everything is bad. Like, an A doesn't mean it is incredible, right? So that's just kind of how it's going. It's relative to itself. All right, Captain America the Winter Soldier. Let's just take this guy and just put it right there. Captain America the Winter Soldier is a great movie. This is the writing of Christopher Marks and Stephen McFeely, who show up a lot on this list. They wrote the entire Cap trilogy and Infinity War and Endgame, and they co-wrote Dark World. So that's fun. But Winter Soldier does so much right. Again, great character writing. This is the best Black Widow we've had on screen. The Winter Soldier is a terrifying villain. I think his reveal and his theme are just incredible. The one thing I say against this movie that's kind of just a plot nitpick is me saying that I feel like it doesn't make sense that Nick Fury would think putting 3 helicarriers in the air with that can murder the entire population would ever be a good idea. But I mean, what are you gonna do? He's done stupider things, which we'll get to. But yeah, Winter Soldier is just a great movie. It's one I rewatch, and I feel like I like it more and more, and it kind of just moves up a tad on my ranking list every year when I usually rewatch the MCU. Moving on to Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy. I've been in a debate with myself for years on whether Guardians of the Galaxy or Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is the better movie. I don't know, but we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy here, which does pretty much everything right. The main Guardians group are all really good, and they all have their own motives and their own arcs, which is cool. It's also such an emotional movie. God, the opening of that movie made my mom cry when I watched it with her. I probably should have warned her that the opening was not going to be as fun as the rest of the movie. Things against it, Ronan. I don't care about Ronan as a character. He's not that cool to me. That one Thanos scene is really cool, but that's besides the point. You know what I'm gonna do for Guardians? We're gonna put it A for now. For now, we're gonna put it in A. It might move. If there's one movie on the list that's gonna move, I think it's gonna be Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, moving on to Avengers Age of Ultron. This is an entertaining movie that does a lot wrong. It has, again, too many plot lines, too many things it's setting up. Ultron is a great character in his first scene, and after that, he isn't. I'm not a fan of how they did Ultron. He's just jokey, and he has, voice cracks, and he gets, super offended. I prefer my Ultrons more stoic and menacing, as opposed to what they did with this Ultron. Also, he has lips. This isn't even a negative against the movie. It's just uncomfortable that he has lips moving, but he's a robot. It's the same thing they did in Transformers. I don't like robots having lips. I think this movie has trouble balancing 9 Avengers, even though Infinity War could do it with 24 of them, and people like Thor get heavily sidelined, and Black Widow doesn't really get much to do in this movie besides just stand there and look pretty because she's Scarlett Johansson. And I mean, they did fix Hawkeye. He gets that cool scene with Wanda. Wanda's a cool character. Quicksilver dies. The only 2 things he does in the movie is get shot. Hulk, I mean, this is the last time Hulk was cool, you could say, but you can tell it was going downhill in this movie with Hulk. So much of the setup just doesn't work for me. They try so hard to put Ragnarok and Black Panther and Infinity War and just so much setup into this movie instead of focusing on Ultron, and that definitely brings it down. I think everyone hates Joss Whedon as a person, and he isn't a good person, but I'm not going to use that to say the movie is, I'm going to give him praise where praise is due. He really did try the best he could to put in everything he was supposed to put in with this movie. He did his best, and I think I'm going to put this in C at the highest one. No, go right. Yeah, right there. It's going to be at the top of C, I think, is where I'm going to put Age of Ultron. Ant-Man. Ant-Man is a fun movie. It's definitely the best Ant-Man movie, I'll just say that. I think the cast in this is great. That goes without saying. It does have another villain problem, of course, but it is just a super fun movie, and it's not a movie that's trying to be incredible. It's just a movie that's trying to be fun. And I talked in my review about how much influence Edgar Wright had on this movie, and how that really did make this movie good at the end of the day. I don't think it deserves B, A, or S. I don't think it deserves kind of the more upper echelon tiers, you could say. But I definitely do think I'll put it at the top of C above Age of Ultron, because I think that Ant-Man is a better structured, better paced, better written movie, you could say, than Age of Ultron. And I just like the smaller stakes of Ant-Man, especially coming out of Phase 2, which was a phase with a bunch of world-ending stakes that Ant-Man was just kind of a small heist film. That worked for it. All right, now let's get into some good stuff. We're going to hit 7 really good movies in a row. Captain America Civil War is fantastic. the best thing it does is that even though it has most of the Avengers, it still feels like Captain America movie. That's awesome. He's still the heart and soul of the movie. Every team, they have very distinct goals, and if you didn't flip-flop at least once in the movie, you're just ignorant and you were watching it wrong because they spell out that neither side is in the right. I think this movie does a lot for Bucky when he gets to be in it. That's a problem with the MCU, is Bucky doesn't have a lot of screen time, but what this movie does for Bucky is really cool when he gets to be in the movie. Both sides are fleshed out. Why most of the characters are there makes sense. The one thing I don't understand is Wanda. She seems like she kind of flips between teams kind of on a whim. I think it has two of the best fight scenes ever in the airport battle and the ending fight with between Tony, Cap, and Bucky. It introduces Spider-Man, introduces Black Panther. This movie, there's so much this movie needs to do, and it pulls it all off. And it was coming out of this movie when they announced that these guys would be writing Infinity War and the Russos would be directing Infinity War, that I think everyone was just super hyped because they pulled off something insane with Civil War, and then they got to do it 2 more times. Zemo, also, how could I forget? Zemo, great villain. Sue me for that opinion, but he is. He broke the Avengers without needing any powers, and his goal actually made sense. You know what? I think I'm going to do it. I think we're going to put Civil War in S. It's not going above Iron Man, though, but I think we're going to put Civil War in S tier. Doctor Strange. Oh, yeah, we haven't had any Fs yet. Good job. All right, Doctor Strange. Here we go. Doctor Strange is a good movie. Doctor Strange is such a good movie. Scott Derrickson did great. And I think it's funny that Doctor Strange, it's a good movie, but that one scene when the Ancient One dies is like a great scene. Like, they just went really hard on that scene. I really wish I saw this movie in 3D. That would be awesome. But, yeah, no, I think Doctor Strange just does so much right. And a lot of people will be like, yeah, it's another MCU origin story. It is, but something about it is just so special. My one negative, Caecilius. He has motivation in the prequel comic, and he's a really cool character, but they just sucked all the life out of him in the movie, and he's kind of a nobody. Also, best touch about this movie will always be Doctor Strange defeating Dormammu by annoying him instead of there being like a giant fist fight. That's cool. I think we're going to put this guy in B it's going to be the first one in B. It's going to be right there. Alright, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Another movie that I don't know if it's better than one, I don't know if it's better than one. This is what I'm saying. Things I like. The characters even better this time around, and then they also add in Yondu and Nebula, and Yondu and Nebula become 2 of the best characters. One of my favorite scenes in the MCU being the prison break with Yondu's arrow is just phenomenal. James Gunn is a great character writer. That's something I've noticed about all 3 of his comic book movies, and I think this is the peak of James Gunn's character writing ability. That just almost every character in this movie is great, the Sovereign being the exception. The Sovereign really served no purpose to the story, and I hate that they're in here beyond that first fight with the Guardians of the Galaxy. They don't need to be in this movie. They just are there for, I don't know why they're there past that first little bit. Like, they don't need to be there, right? Like, there's a point, after Taserface takes over the ship, the Sovereign don't need to come back. Like, Taserface can get killed without needing to alert the Sovereign, because they come in during the final battle, but they're never an issue. They're just kind of an inconvenience, and it bothers me that they're in this movie. I think Ego is a cool villain, and this movie does have what might be, I wouldn't say the saddest, but one of the saddest MCU scenes in Yondu's death and funeral. I think it's a great ending to the movie. I'm going to put it in A, but I'm going to put it above the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Because I can't tie them because they can't go on top of each other. So for now, I'm just going to put them both in A tier. Hey, going into Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming is a movie I like. I do actually like what they did with Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming. I like how the story is him wanting to be Tony Stark and then ending with him realizing he could be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and it's not all about the technology. The backtrack on that, though, is that he gets his $1 million suit back at the end of the movie instead of making his own. But you know what? Whatever. We're going to talk about making your own suits when we get to No Way Home. Vulture, fantastic villain. I do like Iron Man's role in the film and how it's kind of a contrast between the big league of superheroes and then the area where Spider-Man needs to operate. Ned, dear Ned, one of the best MCU characters. This poster's awful though. Thank God these aren't being graded on posters, because all of the Spider-Man movies would be an F if that were the case. And this movie does a really good job of kind of capturing that teenager life, and some of my favorite scenes are the scenes when he has to decide between being Peter Parker and being Spider-Man, and he does that in DC. Liz wants him to go to the pool, and he wants to go to the pool, but he has a responsibility, and he has to do that. I think it captures the Spider-Man Peter Parker conflict really well, and I actually do really like Homecoming. I think a lot of people might get in their head that I don't, but I do like Homecoming, don't get me wrong. I think I'll put it in... Do I go B? I'm going to go A. I'm going to go the end of A, though. It's going to go at the end of the A tier. Thor Ragnarok. Let's talk about Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok is a movie I'm torn on. This movie is funny as hell. It is hilarious. It is so entertaining. It's a movie, it's just a feel-good movie. It makes you laugh. But it goes too far with the comedy. It does jokes when it doesn't need to, most notably the one at the end when Asgard's getting blown up and Thor's home and Korg says, yeah, no, it's fine. As long as the foundation's there, we can rebuild. And that blows up and he's like, oh, and now the foundations are gone. Sorry. It does seem like it's too funny for the story it's telling, which is like the literal apocalypse that an entire planet is going to burn and millions of people are going to die, but they have time to joke around. It does kind of feel like there's a little tonality difference in there, but hey, the movie makes me laugh. So I think Thor Ragnarok is a movie with great ideas that just goes a little too far in areas it shouldn't. But I think Hela is a great villain. I think Thor definitely needed a rework to make him a much better character. Hulk in this movie is cool. He's not great, but he's cool, and I do like the fight scene in the arena. Loki gets an amazing arc in this movie. He actually becomes a hero at the end, and he's a good guy. The introduction of people like Valkyrie was awesome. I just love that they got Jeff Goldblum to just be Jeff Goldblum. I think it's just such an entertaining movie through and through, and I'm excited for Love and Thunder, but I am also nervous because I feel like it might be too funny, but I think Taika Waititi has assured us that it'll be fine. Hopefully. So I'm going to put Thor Ragnarok, I'm going to put it in B also with the first Thor, but it's going below it because I think the first Thor is a better movie. Black Panther's really good, isn't it? Black Panther's a really good movie. R.I.P. Chadwick, by the way, but T'Challa is a great character. I think this movie is blessed with some phenomenal characters. T'Challa, great. Nakia, great. Shuri, great. Letitia Wright, not great, but Shuri, great. W'Kabi, like, everyone has motives and everyone feels like a character, and it's a movie that has so many characters in it, but they all feel like real people, right? And of course, Killmonger. How did I not mention Killmonger just now? Killmonger, one of the best villains, one of the best characters. His death scene actually makes me emotional because it's kind of sad to see Killmonger die. I think the one issue I have with the movie is that between the first half and the second half, it feels like a different movie because Claw is the villain in the first half and Killmonger's the villain in the second half, and tonally, it is so much different. I kind of wish that they had just done Killmonger in one movie and Claw in a different movie instead of trying to put them both in here. That might have been the way to go. But, I mean, Ryan Coogler balanced them. He made it work. I'm excited to see what he does with Black Panther 2. Hopefully that's all going well because, I mean, T'Challa's not going to be in it. Letitia Wright is reportedly being an issue on set, and they're trying to figure out what to do. But I just hope that's a good movie because the first one was really solid. I think I'm going to go A tier with it. I don't know where specifically in A. I think I'm just going to put it at the end of A tier for now, but this is a movie I very much enjoy. Alright, let's talk about Avengers Infinity War, or the masterpiece that is Avengers Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War does 98% of its things right. Thanos is maybe the best villain in the MCU. Every character gets a moment in the spotlight. The action is phenomenal. Like, the Russos really figured it out by Infinity War. That fight on Titan is beautiful. That ending fight where they're trying to hold off Thanos is beautiful. This movie has the stakes. It has the emotions. You can feel that it's not a good time to be a superhero on Earth. I love that there's actually consequences. People die. We lose Loki. We lose Gamora. We lose Vision in this movie, and then we lose half the universe, and we see so many characters we love just get snapped, and Thanos wins, which is something that was so new to the MCU, and I think a breath of fresh air, which was to have a villain actually win. I genuinely cannot think of any huge problems with this movie. I think my one issue with it would be that it kind of backtracks on a lot of stuff in Thor Ragnarok. Thor needs a weapon now, but the one way they explain that away is that he's more powerful without one, but Stormbreaker just channels it so he gets more powerful strikes. I don't like that he got his eye back, but that's a nitpick. But the one thing this movie actually does insanely wrong to me is that it just, what the hell did they do to Hulk? What did they do? Ragnarok had this great Hulk arc with Bruce Banner accepting Hulk, and he's Hulk permanently, and then this movie turns him into an erectile dysfunction joke. And that's not cool. But you know what? There's so much good about Infinity War that I gotta put it in S. I gotta put it in S. I have to. I gotta put it there. Alright, look at that. Alright, we only have one row of stuff left. Ant-Man and the Wasp can get its ass right there. Ant-Man and the Wasp ain't a good movie. It's not. Is it entertaining? Kind of. It kind of is. You know what? Let's actually... We might rename F, but it does so much wrong. Like, Ant-Man, it turns him into a joke, and he's just a moron throughout the movie, which is a complete different character than he was in the first one. So Wasp just gets a chance in the spotlight. 3 villains in this movie. All of them suck. It's just dull. Like, the movie's just not good to look at. Like, where's the color in this movie? It's just not there. And I don't like that. It's not fun to look at. It's not, like, super entertaining. It's one of the movies I watch where I just am ready for it to end. It doesn't do justice for any of its characters. At no point did I ever feel like there were stakes or any of the characters were in danger. It's not great. It's not great. And that brings us to Captain Marvel, which means that it is time to make a new tier. So let's make a new tier. Let's make it. Let's go with that color. Whoops, no, keep it. No, it stays like that, and then we go add a row below. All right. Let's go, let's make it that pink color, and we will call it Tastes Like Cat Food. Okay, and then, hold on, okay. Tastes Like Cat Food, and then we're just going to take Captain Marvel, and we're just going to put it right in Tastes Like Cat Food. So let's talk about everything that Captain Marvel does wrong. Carol Danvers is the single worst superhero in the MCU. Yon-Rogg is among the worst villains in the MCU. Every guy in the movie is either a sexist asshole or a moron. It screws over the amazing character that was Nick Fury by having him lose an eye because he holds a cat too close to his face. It's not even like an epic one where the Flurkin like lashes out and he's in harm's way. No, he literally holds it too close to his face and Goose scratches his eye, right? The action is horrible. None of the side characters I feel anything for. I hate that Carol, these people that she has known for what she believes to be her entire life, she turns on him in a heartbeat and she is okay basically killing them and shooting sunbeams into their faces like they're nothing, when in reality these people should be her family. Did I miss anything? I mean, I know I missed something, but like, I think I hit all the big stuff that this movie does wrong. Things it does right, Talos is cool. I mean, yeah, Talos is a cool character. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, well, the effects are good, so that's a positive. in the year this movie came out, which was a year after Infinity War, a couple years after Doctor Strange, I would expect effects to be good, so I'm not going to give the movie props for having good CGI. That is expected at this point for a movie with a $200 million budget. So, not getting a plus there from me. And Talos being a cool character is not enough to bring this movie out of the tastes like cat food tier. I think this is a terrible movie, and I hope that The Marvels is better. Alright, let's move into Endgame. Endgame is a fine movie with an A+ third act. That's the best way I can describe Endgame. It starts out just the dark tone of, post-snap and how everyone's recovering from that, and the Avengers are split and what all of them are doing. I think that's really cool. I think the retrospective through the MCU is fun, although I will say sometimes it seems like it works out a bit too perfectly. And I think the second act is really where all my issues with the movie lie. I think there's stuff they could have cut. They turn certain characters into jokes. Smart Hulk in particular. Thor staying fat the entire movie, and his motive for coming back just being that they're gonna give him beer. Right? But yeah, I take some issue with what they did with some of the characters. The movie is super gray. Uncomfortably gray, by the way. But what it does right, it does really right. Mainly, obviously, the third act, the entire thing between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers and their arcs and how those arcs wrap up, and just kind of the hope that you get as the movie goes on of like, there is no hope, there's no hope, they're starting to get hope, they lose all hope, no, they're going to come back from that, and then that culminates in the portal scene when Steve Rogers stands alone against Thanos and his army, and then everyone comes through the portals. I think it's so cool how you can just feel the hope growing exponentially as the movie goes on. That's really cool. It's not an S movie by any means, because I did say it's an okay movie with an A+ third act, because if the third act was something along the lines of, if the third act was just Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, and the Avengers we had beating Thanos and his army, it would be good, but it wouldn't be great. It needs the boost of the entire universe coming back to help it. So I do think it's a mediocre movie elevated by some incredible stuff. So I think it's gonna go in A. Where in A is the question. Definitely above Winter Soldier. I'm not sure if it needs to go above both Guardians of the Galaxies. We're gonna put it here. We're gonna put it right there where I said below Guardians of the Galaxy and right above Captain America: The Winter Soldier. All right, boys, it's time. It's time. It is time for my very controversial opinion that Spider-Man: Far From Home ain't great. It does so much wrong. And I know No Way Home elevates a lot of Far From Home. It elevates a lot of it, but I'm going to look at this movie as it was when it came out, ignoring what No Way Home did for the movie. So, Far From Home, it starts out, Aunt May is just supportive of Peter getting shot at every night. There is never any conflict on what she thinks of that. And then you have that awful romance arc between Happy and Aunt May, where I don't know what they were thinking when they did that. And then you have when they go on the school trip, and Tony gives a pair of glasses that basically has so much weaponized potential to a 16-year-old who has been dead for 5 years, and he leaves him no instructions on how to use them, and then he almost blows up a classmate in what I think is the single worst scene of the film, is that scene on the bus when he almost kills Brad. I think Mysterio pretending to be a hero is really cool, but when Mysterio is just a straight-up villain, he is less interesting of a character, I will say that. But something this movie does well, which the whole trilogy does do well, is it shows how Spider-Man is a burden on Peter Parker's life. So credit where credit is due, it does that well. I think the movie culminates ultimately in this scene where Peter's on the jet thinking he's supposed to be Iron Man, and Happy assures him he doesn't have to be Iron Man, and that's the conclusion of his arc, where he says, you don't have to be Iron Man, you just need to be Spider-Man. And then right after that, they give him an Iron Man lab, access to billions of dollars worth of technology to build the most high-end suit he can while they play AC/DC. And that, my friends, is what we call awful fan service, because it actually takes away from the story and actually ruins it. The two best scenes in this movie are the Peter Tingle scene, the hallway run. I mean, the two Mysterio illusion scenes are the best scenes in the movie. So it's the one when he is just wrecking Peter in his illusion, and then the one when Peter gets Spidey sense, which he says, "Come on, Peter Tingle." I think in that scene it would have been cool if he said, "Come on, Spider sense." That would have been badass. It is what it is, I guess. Is it better than Ant-Man and the Wasp? Yes. Is it worse than Iron Man 2 and Thor the Dark World? I'm gonna say no, because the movie, to me, is at least somewhat entertaining. And Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal and Zendaya, just the charm of them and chemistry and stuff is gonna put it... I don't want to put it at the very bottom, because it's not the very bottom, but I'm trying to decide if I like it more or less than Iron Man 2. Is the debate I'm having with myself. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put Far From Home right here. It's going to go right there. Right there. It's going to go at the top of D tier. All right, and that brings us to Phase 4. All 9 things that released this year. So, let's talk about WandaVision. WandaVision is a great show with a horrible last episode. I think the first 2 episodes are entertaining when you're with the concept of what the show is, but it's 3 through 8 really that have the intrigue, 8 having the best line of the MCU, in my opinion, which is what is grief if not love persevering, and then the finale is just disappointing in what feels like every level, because you take this show that was so revolutionary, not just for Marvel, but for television in general, and you give it a CGI finale. The intrigue of WandaVision came from the mystery and the tension of what was happening inside the Hex. So the last episode is just made boring by the fact that it's, just red laser versus purple laser, and then yellow laser versus green laser, and then guns versus a guy who can run really fast, and a woman who, I guess, can absorb bullets, or her powers change whenever the plot needs it to, because Monica Rambeau do kind of be an ex machina, though. But I think what this movie does for the character of Wanda Maximoff and for Vision is insane, and it propelled Wanda into a fan-favorite MCU character, and everyone is super excited to see her in Multiverse of Madness. I think Vision, this show did more so than any of the other MCU things have done, is it just showed how big of a hero Vision is, that he killed himself to alert SWORD that Wanda is basically enslaving everyone in Westview, and him leaving the Hex and breaking apart and using his last moments to say the people need help is just insanely heroic. I love that when the show goes horror, it is so cool. The Vision body jump scare, the Pietro jump scare, honestly the entire Halloween episode is just really mysterious and really ominous, and I love that. I love the sitcom episodes and the mystery they have, and just the uneasiness to them is fantastic, and that's why I say it's 8 great episodes of television brought down by one bad finale. But what that finale does for its characters is enough to still give it a very good score for me, so I do think WandaVision is going to go in A. I think I'll put it, we'll slide it at the end of A for now, because so much stuff in A I feel like would realistically just be tied with each other. Like Avengers, Homecoming, Black Panther, WandaVision. Of those 4, I legitimately cannot pick what would go where. So I just lined them up in release order for now. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is an amazing 2.5-hour movie that is a 5.5-hour show. Falcon and the Winter Soldier does so much for the character Sam Wilson. It does so much for Bucky Barnes. It does so much for John Walker. Those 3 characters are incredible. Its villain in Carly Morgenthau is absolutely terrible. I don't know what they were thinking with that character and her lack of any sort of motivation. I think I talked about this in my episode 3 review of Hawkeye when they introduced Echo, which is a character needs to have personality beyond just motive, or else they're boring. And Carly's her entire character is just her motive that she hates the government. And you can only go so far with that. And when you run out of things you can do with that, what happens is she becomes a terrible character. Sharon Carter, what the hell was the deal with Sharon Carter? First off, that was a plot twist we were supposed to be shocked by, but all of us knew she was the power broker. I think the show spends like at least a solid hour just on Sam and Bucky fixing a damn boat for some reason, when you could just take pretty much all of that out, and the themes and the messages the show wants to convey are still there. Those messages, like with Isaiah Bradley and all that, I think are great when the show goes for it. I think the show has this issue with its plot lines where it has like an A, B, and a C plot, and it puts them all in the wrong order. It feels like Carly Morgenthau and that whole thing should be the A conflict of the show, but instead they made John Walker's whole thing the A conflict instead of the B conflict. It feels like they had three very good plot ideas, but put them in the wrong order in terms of importance to the story. I do like this show. I am looking forward to rewatching it. I think it's very entertaining. It's a worthy addition to the Captain America franchise. I think it's going to go B. And I'm just going to slip it right there at the end of B. We're going to put it above Ragnarok. Okay. Loki. God, Loki is a fantastic piece of television. It is my favorite. It's my favorite of the Disney Plus shows. It's not my absolute favorite thing in Phase 4. We'll get to that here in a minute on what my favorite thing in Phase 4 is, but I think Loki does this incredible thing where it gives him 5 movies worth of character development in 5 minutes, and it doesn't feel rushed in any way. It also has some great additions. Mobius is a fan favorite character. Sylvie is a character I found myself really enjoying, and I really liked Sylvie as a character, and I hope that we get to see more of her as it goes. The mystery and the intrigue of the Time Variance Authority, just like WandaVision, Loki does it very well, and those are some of the best parts of the show, is just that mystery of what's going on in the TVA, who's behind it, and all that is cool. And the show's talks about free will versus not having free will, and what you need to do to kind of keep the timeline safe are really cool to hear. I think this has some great writing, and I really like that the lead writer of this show wrote Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. He did the rewrite when they kind of moved the schedule around. He did the rewrite on Doctor Strange, and I cannot wait to see what he does with that movie. Loki, it's going high for me. It's going high. I think I'm going to slide it right under Winter Soldier and right above Avengers is where we're going to put Loki. Hey, let us talk about some Black Widow. Black Widow. Black Widow is an interesting movie, isn't it? Because Black Widow has so many cool ideas. The movie starts with a human trafficking montage, and it's the best scene in the movie. And then the whole thing is about taking down this guy who is enslaving a bunch of girls. And it's such this cool story that they could do so much with, but they make it a joke. I think this movie is the worst offender of serious stuff getting ruined by jokes. There is a scene where they're in a helicopter and Red Guardian doesn't understand why they're mad, and he asks if Yelena, if it's her time of the month, and then she goes in depth on the fact that she does not have reproductive organs. They did a surgery. They basically took her body away from her. And that should be a very serious moment in the movie, but instead they use it like it's a joke, and they get the entire theater to laugh at it. And that is unforgivable. And then it also has that stupid thing I hate, which is just a little quick fix. We're like, oh yeah, we have a red dust that we just have at the start of the movie, and we'll just spray that on you, and you're no longer one of Dreykov's Black Widows. Speaking of Dreykov, horrible villain, and the fact that he smells like shit it's basically like, that's the twist of the movie, is you can't kill him if you smell him, because he just smells like shit. And if you smell him, you're physically not able to kill him. That's awful. Other thing this movie does that I cannot forgive is Natasha Romanoff survives shit that she should not be able to survive. She falls off a building, cracks her back on the fire escape, lands on her feet, and walks it off. Then she's in a car that gets shot by Taskmaster, goes up in the air, lands on its back, barrel rolls, slides down the subway, and she climbs out without a scratch on her. And then, of course, there's the skydiving fight. What they did with Taskmaster, also not okay. Red Guardian and Melina are such fun characters when the plot uses them, but they just don't. And can I just see more of them? Because I actually did enjoy them when they were there. Okay, but I did rewatch this movie when I was isolated for COVID. It's entertaining. I'll give it that. It's entertaining, and it moves faster than you would think. It is a surprisingly well-paced movie. I think this is going to go and see, and we're going to plop it right there, because I do actually enjoy aspects of this movie. Alright, What If? What If is an interesting show, because What If has some of the best writing of the MCU, like the Doctor Strange episode, and it has some of the worst writing of the MCU, like the Party Thor episode. It fluctuates episode to episode on whether it wants to be good or bad. I think the show starts out with 2 not great episodes, and then it has 2 really good episodes, and then 2 episodes that are good, and then an episode that's awful, an episode that's good, and then another episode that's not good, and that's the finale. It also doesn't help that every episode of the show ends on a cliffhanger, and they felt the need for some reason to make them all 30 minutes, so you have to rush everything along, and it just becomes super fast. I think the show did not need to have a giant thing culminating a storyline. I much more enjoyed What If when they were each separate stories, and I wish they stuck with that. For some reason, it seems like they didn't have the balls to just make 9 individual episodes, and they felt like they had to have it all building to something, and then you get the Guardians of the Multiverse, and I don't like that episode or that storyline, and I think it was, if they really wanted to do that, they needed to introduce Ultron sooner, because they introduced Ultron in the second to last episode, which means in the last episode, there's no time for the characters to get beaten by Ultron at all. It just has to go straight to them beating Ultron, and it is awful to see this guy who was able to destroy universes with ease in one episode get taken down by 2 girls with shields in the last episode. But when this show wants to be amazing, it's amazing. The Doctor Strange episode, I think, is one of the best things that has ever come out of the MCU. It's so good. I think this is another one that's going to go and see. I think we're going to put it there with Black Widow, and I'll just tack it on to the end there of C. Alright, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is such a good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think Shang-Chi's a great character, and I love his relationship with Katie, played by Awkwafina, and I like that the 2 of them aren't in a romantic relationship, they're just friends. I think that's something we need more of in fiction, superhero movies in particular. Just be friends, that's cool. Wen Wu is maybe the best villain of the MCU. He might have Thanos beat as a character. He's just that amazing. I think the fights in this movie are cool, and it's a martial arts movie, so a lot of times you have fights that tell the story, and that's why you have so much action in this movie, but it all helps propel the story forward. They did so good with the action. I want Jackie Chan in the sequel. I know Destin Daniel Cretton wants Jackie Chan in the sequel. I would also like Jackie Chan in the sequel. I think one thing I'm confused by is what the Legend of the Ten Rings actually is, because about 2 hours into the movie I realized I didn't know what the Legend of the Ten Rings was. And this movie, the best thing this movie does, I'm kidding when I say that, is that it brings back Trevor Slattery. It brings back Trevor Slattery, who is such a gem of a character, and they address that Mandarin twist in a way. They're like, yes, we're fine, we're good, okay? Here you go. Here's your good villain, and just I cannot say enough good things about Wen Wu, how good of a character he is. Shang-Chi is going to go somewhere near the top, this movie is. Is that A? That's a good question, because I think, you know what, it is going to go in A. I'm going to tell you why. I like it more than Black Panther, but not as much as Spider-Man. So we'll do that. And let's do something here for WandaVision. I think we're going to move WandaVision down to the start of B tier, the very top of B tier. Alright, people, Eternals. Let's talk about Eternals here. Eternals is so annoying because Eternals, it wants to be something different, and that's something I like. I like that it wants to be something different, but when it tries to be different, it fails, and then when it tries to be the same, it fails. And it has too many characters, which means 10 characters it's introducing, which means it has to set up 10 motives, 10 arcs, and 10 different power sets, all in this movie, that still has a bigger main storyline than that. Things happen to characters before you've gotten to know them. Ajak dies. You don't feel anything because you don't know who Ajak is. Thena says she's going to have her memory wiped and she's crying. And as an audience member, I don't care about Thena, so it's not emotional to me. Granted, Angelina Jolie's performance in that scene was really good. She carried it. But as an audience member, I don't care about Thena getting her memory wiped because I don't care about Thena yet, because it's the first 10 minutes of the movie when they told me that she was going to have her memories wiped. I don't know who she is yet. The whole plot of this movie revolves around a celestial being born out of Earth, and the Eternals have to decide if they should let that happen or if they should save us. The message of this movie is not whether or not humans are worth saving, it is, should the Eternals save us? Well, I can guarantee you a superhero movie where the Eternals decide not to be superheroes would be a horrible superhero movie. So you know instantly they're going to do it. It's not going to be a question. And as a human being, I really would like to survive, thank you very much. So I think the theme they were going for really falls flat. The movie is stunning, though. Chloe Zhao is a great director. She won the Oscar for a reason for directing. So the movie, beautiful, beautiful to look at. But from a story and a character standpoint, it's not. There are only a few characters I really like. Those were Druig, Makari, Kingo, and Icarus. Everyone else, I did not give a crap about. And it sucks that I'm going to put this movie so low. I wish I was in the half of people that really liked this movie and saw the beauty of it. But for me, it was insanely disappointing. I think I'm going to put it in D. Right there. It can go above Spider-Man. Alright, two more things. Hawkeye, which is not done. Hawkeye is not over. So it might be unfair to put this in the tier list, but if the last I'm going to grade this purely on the idea that the last episode of Hawkeye is going to be consistent with the first 5 episodes of Hawkeye, which is very possible, then in that case, I think Hawkeye is going to find itself comfortably in B tier right there. Right there. I think the low stakes for Hawkeye is working out for the show. I'm glad it's a smaller scale story than everything else that we've had in Phase 4 so far. It's just about Kate Bishop stealing something she wasn't supposed to and then getting caught up in the drama of that. What this show is doing for Clint Barton in particular is something that the MCU has been slacking on for about 10 years, because it'll be 10 years of Hawkeye come next year. So, yeah, finally, some good material for Hawkeye. Jeremy Renner is killing it in this role, and it's great when he gets good stuff to work with. How good Jeremy Renner is of an actor. Would you look at that? It's almost like he's an amazing actor. Haley Steinfeld is a great actress, and I love everything they've done with Kate Bishop in this show, and her chemistry with Clint Barton is great. She annoys him, but she's not annoying to the audience, and I think that is key. Lucky the Pizza Dog is not in it enough. 0 out of 10, not enough. Pizza Dog. I think Echo is a compelling character, and I just hope they don't drop the ball in the last episode where they did with Carly and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because I think she is a very compelling character. To see Kingpin coming back also is something I didn't think I would see, and I like that we're going to be getting some more Kingpin in this final episode. My one issue is that it seems like it has too many things to wrap up in one episode, but I'm gonna hope it can do it. And you know what? The Christmas stuff, it's getting me in the Christmas spirit. It makes me happy. I'm glad to see it. It would have been cool if they released it just 1 week sooner, so that way we could have actually had this last episode a few days before Christmas. But I think they released it like this, so that way we could have Kingpin and Matt Murdock back to back. So yeah, Hawkeye, very entertaining show. I've been very pleased with it so far. I'm hoping the final episode doesn't drop the ball, so we're gonna put it in B tier for now. Now, let's talk about Spider-Man. And if you really want to see a character arc, watch where I put Spider-Man. Spider-Man No Way Home does, I think, everything I want from an MCU Spider-Man movie, right? It doesn't feel like it's a movie that heavily relies on Spidey being in the MCU. It feels more like a movie that is just Spider-Man. He's not interacting with the MCU, he's just in the MCU. He's in this world. I think every character in this movie is great. Tom Holland, Peter Parker, basically became the definitive Peter Parker coming out of this movie, and Tom Holland killed it in the role. MJ and Ned are, well, Ned's not the best he's ever been. The best Ned ever was in Homecoming, but MJ's the best she's ever been. Doctor Strange, when he's in this movie, he's cool, but he's not in the movie too much. He doesn't ruin it. It is still very much Spider-Man, and I love that fight in the mirror dimension between Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. Like, come on, that's such a cool idea, and I like that Spidey won that without using, like, his fists and his tech, but he beat it with math and his mind, which I'm very happy about. I think the whole problem being because of the fact that Peter Parker is too good of a person to send these villains back to die is some of the most Peter Parker stuff I've ever seen in a movie. And I like that the movie works without needing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, but Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield elevate it that much more. And they're not cameos, they are actually characters in the movie. They're supporting characters. They come in at the time that Peter Parker, Tom Holland, really needs someone like Spider-Man. That's when Tobey and Andrew come in and they help him solve the problem. And they have their own arcs and they have their own payoffs in the form of Andrew catching MJ and Toby blocking the glider so that Tom can't kill Green Goblin, and him telling Tom, we need to cure everyone because that's what we do. It is so perfect in every way in terms of its characters, and I think the ending of this movie hits so hard. It is a phenomenal ending, and it sets up the next Spider-Man trilogy, which has the potential to be the best Spider-Man trilogy. The entire sequence in the apartment scares the crap out of me. Aunt May's death is really well done. The great power, great responsibility line, it's great to hear that again. I think Green Goblin is a better character in this movie than he is in the original movie. Willem Dafoe killed it. Everyone brought their A game in this movie, but Willem Dafoe in particular stole the show. I think my one gripe with the movie would be, like, in the first 30 minutes, I wasn't sure if I was fully on board with what they were doing, but there was a shift somewhere where I was like, yes, I got you. This is absolutely incredible. I love this movie so much, and it gets better and better and better as it goes until that very end when it knocks it out of the park with the ending of its movie, and just seeing him in an apartment, he has no one left, it's a homemade suit, and he jumps out the window and swings through New York. It is the perfect Spider-Man movie to me. It's the best Spider-Man movie. It's one of the best MCU movies. Now we gotta talk about S tier for a sec, because these three movies in S tier might not necessarily be in the order I would put them. So I think we're gonna put Spider-Man at the top of S tier for now. He's gonna go right here at the top. Does that mean it's the best MCU movie? No, but it definitely means it's a strong contender for being the best MCU movie if I'm gonna put it at the very top of S tier. But there you guys go. That is my MCU tier list. Every movie, every TV show put in a tier list. Do you agree with it? Where are the controversial ones? Are you unhappy with where I put some of these movies? I bet you are. Do you like me making my own tier for just because Captain Marvel's an awful movie? Let me know some of your some things you would change about this tier list, where you would rank certain MCU movies. Let me know all that down in the comments below. I would love to see it. Also, just leave a like on this video, subscribe, click on the bell icon to receive all notifications from the MCU HQ. That's going to be it. Have a great day, guys.